But American core value has been drifting away. People literally forget how this country was formed. From the Declaration of Independence, all that kind of stuff, how the war was fought, how people try to fight the war because there's taxation without representation, all the kind of stuff that we were required to learn coming into this country. It felt like the people who are here, born here, just don't know about none of that. Elon Musk tweeted about multiculturalism, and this is what a Chinese immigrant think about it. Hey guys, welcome back to Common Sense. I'm your host, Dave. And today we're reading this new post, or react to this new post from Elon Musk. Why is the only push in the West? Was a retweet from Rothmus that's saying multiculturalism means embracing every other culture over the West under the guise of inclusion. It acts as Trojan horse that delivers the total erasure of the Western culture and practice. Every person or organization promoting it is an enemy of the West. What multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture in the world except Western culture, and you cannot blame any culture in the world except Western culture. Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is a very famous economist. I don't know if that's what multiculturalism means, but I can get the idea. Maybe this is trying to say that multiculturalism nowadays is being used that way. But multiculturalism, let's take a look, right? What is multiculturalism? And see what Grok has to say. Recently I've been using AI for all this definition type of things. It's actually really convenient. Multiculturalism refers to the coexistence of multiple distinct cultures within a single society, along with the policies, attitudes, and practice that recognize, accommodate, and often promote cultural diversity. Core meanings: a society where people from different ethnic, can't read, racial, religious, linguistic, and national backgrounds live together. There's simply cultural or ethnic pluralism. Many cities today are naturally multicultural due to migration. This is the nature of United States, right? When you come here as an immigrant who came here 20 years ago, become a proud U.S. citizen, this is the first thing you notice when you land, is U.S. is not just it's not just Caucasians, mostly, or European or Western, is most now, especially more than ever, if you are actually any international people and they come to Austin, Texas, or Dallas, or any of the Texas state, you land, wait, is this India? Literally, that's the thing that's going to go into your head. You will forget this is actually America. I was just reading that there was 8 million H-1B visas that was being issued, and out of that, 75% were Indian. If you go to any park in Austin, Texas right now, you will see not majority Caucasian. You will see Indian, which is, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, to be honest. It's kind of scary because it makes you forget that, you actually live in the United States. I thought I actually went to India for a second. It contrasts with the melting pot idea, where cultures blend into one, is more like a salad bowl or cultural mosaic, where groups retain their distinct flavors while contributing to the whole. I can totally understand the meaning of multiculturalism. I think right now in America, the issue is the extreme take of multiculturalism. America should retain its core value. That's how a country becomes a country. If a country doesn't have its core value, from an Asian immigrant, from an Asian background perspective, it's not a country anymore. What then defines America? I feel like America now, from an observer standpoint, from someone who loves this country, it's really just two main countries built into one, right? Because the reason why I say that is mom and a dad. I don't know which one is mom, which one is dad, for two major parties who believe completely different philosophies, at least from what I understand. And they're trying to coexist because they're sharing this intertwined financial situation, right? They can't break apart. If they can break apart, it will be great, right? It's like a clean divorce and then no more troubles. But America is too complicated for that to happen. So you have this two parties that's intertwined and then they can divorce each other. And one party heavily promotes that, we got to accept everybody, all the culture, and then, let them do whatever. The other party, aka mostly from the left, the right side, from what I noticed, largely try to retain the core values of the United States. I got to say, being a Chinese immigrant, I'm mostly social liberal, right? But this is from a multiculturalism standpoint, I respect like just my personal experience, right? I still have a lot of like Chinese cultural root where the Chinese Spring Festival, the New Year's, the holidays, all the different kind of cultural elements, I still remember and celebrate with my family, with my friends back home, online, or sometimes I'll go offline and fly to China and celebrate with my family. My sister is still in China, or I visit my teachers, my friends back in China, all that kind of great stuff. The cultural root is still there, but at the same time, when I'm in America, I respect and assimilate into the American culture because that's what we're taught. Like just my personal experience, we were taught to 入乡随俗. And then, in fact, I actually pulled this up. What this is? There's a idiom in Chinese saying called 入乡随俗. And what it means is when entering a place, village, follow its custom. This came from Zhuangzi, like an ancient philosopher from China. And this has been there for, I don't know how many years, right? Because I'm not very good with history. But this was taught as a core value, core idea since I was a kid. In fact, you can see the idiom emphasized cultural respect, humility, and practicality, a core idea in Chinese thought for travelers, immigrants, and social interactions. It is still commonly used today in similar ways. And Grok is absolutely correct in this case. All the Chinese immigrant or kids, if they had a Chinese root, they were taught this idiom, like in school. Anywhere you go, if you go to somebody else's house, you want to respect their rule. I think a lot of my Indian friends, I have quite a bit of them, they told me they have similar idiom. Maybe not in the same way, taught in the same way, but the same idea. If you go to a different place, you want to respect that place custom, its own culture, although you want to maintain your own like core value, but it doesn't mean you don't respect the local culture. That comes first. Otherwise, you shouldn't even be there. If you hate the place you're going, where are you going in the first place, right? A lot of immigrants actually think exactly the same. To be honest, if you ask people who came here, immigrated, and become American citizen, I bet a large majority all agree with this, which is respecting the American culture. But it feels like this multiculturalism, like being taken to the extreme, is more of an American thing. Like it's not really the immigrants. Immigrants disagree. Actually, a lot of the immigrants I know will completely disagree with how the modern multiculturalism has been taken or used or interpreted. The people who came here knew they should assimilate into the American culture. A lot of them just can't. They simply don't speak English, which is speaking to a bigger issue that I don't want, or more political than I want to discuss. I simply don't want to get into political yet. But if you think about it, a lot of them want to assimilate, they just can't, right? They don't speak English, which means they shouldn't even be here in the first place. If you want to come to the United States, I immigrated here legally. I was an international student. Before I came here, I had to take exams, something called TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. It tests your writing, speaking, listening, all that kind of stuff. It's English. And if you can't pass the test to a certain score, universities won't accept you. I also have to take American SAT, So to do that, what I did, actually, I watched Friends, the TV show, 10 seasons, 7 times. In fact, my freshman year, sophomore year, I was so into the show because I watched it so many different times before I came, 7 different times, like back and forth. Every time when somebody says something, the show is so like day-to-day life, right? It will remind me of some part of the show and I'll respond with the show. And then the line in the show and the person will just be like, what? Like just be dumbfounded because they don't know what I'm talking about. I wouldn't even know what I'm talking about at the time. That's just how much I want to assimilate because that's how we're taught, and that's how every immigrant actually wanted to do in a lot of ways. Because if you don't want to do that, you shouldn't be here in the first place, and everybody agreed to that. So my take on multiculturalism, I think America, the great thing about America is such a melting pot of culture. They're just different kind of culture everywhere, different kind of food everywhere. This is the only place you can get authentic Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, all kinds of food in one city. I mean, you can't get that almost anywhere else, right? And I'm talking about best of the best. Sometimes the food here, Chinese food here, are actually better than Chinese food back home. By the way, in China, people don't call it Chinese food. It's, we just call it food. But I'm just saying, a lot of food are really good here. But when people come here, they adapt to the American culture. So, I don't know, this feels like more of an American thing. Like this feel we're political. That's like a large group of some, or I wouldn't say even large, small group of people have weaponized it and used it as something against, for I don't know even know what purpose, to be honest, because immigrants largely disagree with this, right? Like, yes, I want to keep, like, you ask any Italian, they keep the Italian root, but they will speak English because that's how they do business here, right? That's how they understand this is America and you want to become American. They want their kids to become American, like a Chinese family. Ask any Chinese immigrant family, right? Like people who actually immigrated here legally. What will happen is they will want their kids to speak Chinese so they keep the root, the cultural root, but most importantly, become American, to assimilate into the American culture. That's what we see as a norm. It's never been, what this was interpreting, but it's true. It feels like I was just watching a video, actually. It's so funny. I don't know how, maybe Google was searching my history where I was reading this. It sent me a video recommendation. Let's watch this. This is what American student, college student, thinks of multiculturalism. Let's take a look.
I feel like,
and then we've opened the floodgates.
I feel like attributing immigration to economic boom or decline is just kind of not the right correlation.
They're completely correlated.
By the way, he's wearing a Coachella sweater. I heard from my friend that Coachella was totally for the rich. I have never been, actually. As an immigrant, it's really hard to get into the music culture unless somebody took you. And I was never cool enough in school. Nobody took me. Sad. In fact, I went to the first fraternity party. And then after the first party, my roommate never took me again. It was kind of sad. But that's a story for a different time.
If you have two houses and then someone comes in legally or illegally, and there's already two people wanted to buy it, and now you have a third person, that puts a demand on the market. I mean, it's just basic economics.
But if you build a third...
By the way, for the context, the speaker here, the host, is talking about how immigration puts strain on the economy. So over here, it all depends, right? Depends on the skill, depends on the size, depends on a lot of different things. I don't necessarily agree with this because the student's answer is actually pretty good. Listen.
House, and you have more people coming in, buying stuff, creating more jobs, creating more businesses. There's more money in circulation, more money coming in. It's not like, oh, they're only taking houses. If I can't afford a house as a U.S. citizen, what do you think someone from El Salvador coming here with nothing in their pockets can afford?
So this has some basis to it because Elon Musk actually just also tweeted about this as well. Well, not the exact way, but the way how it's a fundamental philosophy of expansion. Like, how do people become wealthy? How do nations become wealthy? Do you become wealthy by reserving the wealth that you have, or do you become wealthy by expanding into bigger areas and creating more wealth? It's arguably both, right? But expansion is also good. Like, that's why he's advocating for human to become multiplanetary. And I'm fully on board with expansion as well, right? Whereas bigger economy, there's more spending, there's more circulation, is good for the economy, right? Everybody gets more jobs because there's more demand. So I guess I can see where the host is coming from. It just wasn't really a good example for how economy works, I suppose, from a common sense perspective.
A house over me. It's not.
But in the sense, we're not just a country of GDP and economics. We're a country of value.
And in a way, he agrees, right? But he argues more from the point of the value now for multiculturalism.
Right? Mm-hmm. And if people, you're saying, some guy from El Salvador. For me, it's a problem when I look at California and a majority of the young people under the age of 30 speak Spanish and don't speak English very well. That's a problem. It's a problem that these people don't speak English.
That is absolutely a problem. Language, like a common language, is probably the most important element for a country to become a country. If a country doesn't have a common language, like in China, one of the most important thing, I think the constructive thing that the government did is mandatory Mandarin study for everywhere, right? The entire country speak Mandarin. You go anywhere in the country, you can speak Mandarin. And you just feel proud because you're part of a country. Like you feel like you're part of the same group, same family, and the same countrymen, right? Basically, everybody speaks the same language. If you go to Japan and all of a sudden you don't speak, like everybody speaks Japanese, you're a tourist, right? Because you don't speak Japanese. So to become for a family to be called a family, they need to speak the same language. And that's number one. Number two, I think the family need to have one core value. Any family should have one core value. That's also why I think the two people with fundamental different philosophies should not be married, because it's going to be a miserable family Like, because it ties into your kids' education, ties into how you spend your finances. It's basically the current modern state of America, to be honest. You know, it's such a, just 50% of the people hate the other 50% all the time. It's a really criminal marriage, in my opinion.
I personally don't. I mean, I guess that's just where we
how could,
are different. I don't.
Well, of course. But if you were here right now and I spoke Spanish and you only spoke English, we wouldn't be able to have this debate. What kind of country is that?
Yeah,
it's a country of diversity. If
No, but
I can-
diversity is not a good thing.
in this case, diversity is for sure not a good thing. We can understand what diversity is coming from, and I explained it too. Like, yeah, like I think America does have this unique culture of multiculturalism, right? Where there's so many different culture here, and you have so many different great food, and everybody love that. But bottom line is, that's not the strength. That's just a character. You know, that's more of a great, right? That's more of just a character. Oh, you know, America has this, nobody else has. Awesome, right? You know, you go to China, you're gonna see all Chinese. You go to Japan, you're gonna see all Japanese. You go to Korea, you're gonna see all Korean. But you come to America, you see all kinds of everything. But bottom line is, the fundamental core belief and fundamental core value should be same and unified. Unity is strength in culture, right? Like multiculturalism doesn't extend into culture. It should be the same fundamental culture and fundamental value. Most important thing is it should share the same language. A country doesn't share the same language is not a country. You know, it just simply isn't. And then the student is struggling to understand this, wearing a Coachella sweater. I don't understand how that's so hard to understand. It's obviously a bad thing if majority of a state doesn't speak English in California. This is also why actually it was so funny, because, you know, within the Chinese immigrant community, there are a lot of memes that's circulating. Like, I think not majority, but 50%, I can be wrong for this. By the way, I'm not always accurate. And if I'm wrong, please list the statistic down below, and I'm willing to study and learn, right? But for a long, long time, I don't know if the data changed or not, 50% of all higher education, like colleges and whatnot in California, is all Chinese, all Asians actually, you know, Vietnamese, Chinese, whatever. And it has been like that. And then I heard that's one of the reasons why they had DEI, and, you know, oh, you Asian kids are too smart, you cannot go to college anymore. We're gonna save some spots for some other people, which is kind of criminal, but you can see where they're coming from. When the entire state majority, like if this is America and then all entire school is just all Asians, then they're like, oh, it's literally what I was saying in the beginning. You land in the airport, you're like, yo, did I just go to India? That's literally the state of Austin right now. You come to Austin, Texas, South Austin, North Austin, Central Austin, you go anywhere, any park, you know, it's all Indian. You get on a team meeting. My wife got on a team meeting, and you just hear like majority of the high-tech engineers are all Indian. It's actually just, I think, where society is going at, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what it is.
People in your own family couldn't speak the same language. Would that be good?
If we had a method of communication, I could have someone translate to me.
Bro, this is just stupidity at this point, right? What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? What do you mean? You're a family, you're in a freaking dinner table, and your mom's speaking Spanish, and you can't understand her. Like, bro, that's not gonna happen, because your mom's not gonna let that happen. Your mom's not gonna teach you a language that she doesn't speak growing up, you know? It's the better example is you're in a family and you had a friend who come over who doesn't speak the language the family speak. It's gonna be really awkward. And a friend is gonna feel awkward, your family's gonna feel awkward. And that's why a lot of elder people don't want their kids to marry a completely different, you know, race or a different nationality person, because they can't communicate with them. They usually want their kids to at least marry someone who can communicate with, right? They can communicate with. This is very important for a family. This is just more trying to argue for the sake of argument. You're not debating for good faith anymore. And that's something that this is what convinced me that you can never change people's mind. Like, but when you come to college campuses, you're supposed to, your job is to get your mind changed, right? Because you want to learn, you want to seek the truth. This is just not it, right? This is just pure stupidity on display, to be honest.
Talk to them. What makes it?
You want to have a translator in your family.
I don't. If I can communicate with them, I can talk to them. It doesn't make them less human. It doesn't make us.
I'm not saying it makes them less
human.
But you can't. If you can't have a common culture, a common communication with your neighbors, then they're not your neighbors. They're foreigners in your land. If you can't communicate with them by speaking with them, they're not your neighbor.
And I feel like there's so many, like, not only there's so many values that just transcend this language barrier. I feel like there's so many ways.
No, language barrier is definitely a very, very strong thing. Like if you can't communicate, you're not a nation, you're not a culture, you're not a country. Like then tell me, if you don't speak the same language, don't share the same culture, what define you as a country then? Like give me the number one attribute. I don't know, like because you guys are living on the same land, like what defines a country? Because something have to define a country. Look at all the country that's prospering, successful. I mean, just look at all the country. Forget about just all the country that's prospering, successful. What is most commonly defined as a country? I mean, like this is so weird. That's why you cannot convince them, right? Because and I feel like that's also not my job or anybody's job to convince this type of students, right? Or this type of people in general. Because I don't think they're going to change. The only way that they can change is when the frustration of their life experience hits a certain point and they change themselves. And that frequently is a story that you hear. You know, when people face some kind of like frustration in communication, they think it's from their virtue, they thought it was a good thing, but in practicality, in real life, it actually doesn't work that way and they get really frustrated. They change their mind. But it's not up to us. That's on like a schedule that we cannot foresee. That's on God's schedule, God's calendar, right? In a way. So it's not our job to convince them. We can only share the truth. And in this case, this is just like, I don't know, the better word than stupid. This is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense, defies all common sense. And then just like, this is hard to react to because it's hard to watch.
To communicate other than just language. And there's so many ways to form camaraderie other than language. I don't think human interaction is just, if you speak the same language or if you don't.
Of course
you
not,
can speak whatever.
So yeah, you share the same value. That's also very important, you know? Share the same value, share the same language. So he's saying that, you don't need to share the same language, but you need to share the same value. I think that's what he's saying. But no, we disagree, right? And it's not my job to convince him. He can't convince me either.
The language, I'm going to find a way to relate. I'm going to find a way to become friends with you. I feel like that shouldn't be difficult.
That's true. I went to Japan, and I went all around the country. And I can tell you it was so difficult to get around that country because I can't understand a word that they are saying in Japanese.
Yeah, that's why you're a tourist.
So now you have people who are coming into this country who can't understand the things that I'm saying. That is wrong.
This is actually quite frustrating for me personally because I know a lot of like immigrants, right? Because my favorite food is still Chinese food. Again, I don't call them Chinese food, but there's Chinese food. And you go to different Chinese restaurants, right? And you go to Chinatown in New York, and you go to San Francisco. One of the places I visited was, Chinatown. You go to New York, at least the time I went, bro, I got off the subway because my friend took me subway. I got off the subway and I saw the signs, pure Chinese at the time. Like, I literally felt like I took a time machine. I was like, yo, is this a secret pathway through the core of Earth and go to China? Bro, I felt like I landed in China. You look around, all the shop, all the signs only have Chinese on them. A lot of them don't have English. Chinese titles, Chinese sign, Chinese everything. You go into restaurants, certain good restaurants, or I wouldn't say good or bad, it's just a lot of restaurants that we went to at the time, the menu doesn't even have a word of English on them. And then the waiter, the waitress don't speak. A lot of the waiter and waitress, they're immigrants here, and a lot of them overstay their visa, right? People call them illegal immigrants, doesn't matter what you call them. Practically, I think legally, it's illegal immigrants, right? They overstay their visa. They don't speak a word of English. It's so frustrating. And then they want to stay here in the United States. They want to become U.S. citizen because they understand this is better opportunity, maybe for their kids, or maybe for them. It doesn't matter what the reason is. If you don't speak English, why are you still in United States, right? It's so, because we also deal with this on the level where in esports, because there are a lot of international students, Chinese students that came to United States and they want to study. And by the way, these are legal students, legal international students. They paid a heavy tuition. International student fee are like the most expensive, right? For any tuition. They paid a heavy tuition to stay in the United States for a few years. I mean, if you paid, you can stay, right? They paid a tuition. They don't speak a word of English. They hang out with a small group of Chinese friends. They don't speak English. And they join the esports team. All of a sudden, there's, Mexican American in there. There's Caucasian American in there. There's, mostly still Asian American in there or Filipino American in there. It doesn't matter. The Chinese student have a hard time speaking English. He or she can understand it sometimes, but they don't want to speak. They don't want to talk. And when they do talk, they talk in Chinese. It's the most frustrating thing because it's like it just shows that how lazy they're treating their study in the United States. Why are you coming here? And by the way, a lot of times it's not their fault. Their parents force them to come, because the parents want the kids to succeed more than the kid themselves. They don't really want to come, but they come from a really rich family. A lot of them are international students. The family want them to come. In Chinese, there's a saying called 贴金, right? To put more value on their kid's diploma, to gain face for the family. So when they go back, people treat the kids differently. Oh, look, this kid has studied abroad. What a smart kid. That's the way how a lot of cases are happening. But it's such a shame, in my opinion, that, the Chinese international students or a lot of the Chinese immigrants I notice don't try to speak or assimilate into American culture. That's literally against all the teachings, the culture that we have been raised with, in my opinion, right? When you come to this culture, you have to assimilate. Otherwise, you shouldn't be here, It just doesn't make any sense.
The people who should be coming here should be able to speak English, right? That should be part of the test, that if you're coming to be a legal immigrant into this country, you should speak English.
But
that builds a cohesive culture of people who can communicate, who can do business, who can get things done. That's what happened with all the immigrants that you're talking about, Irish immigrants. These people assimilated into the culture. The German immigrants, the Austrian immigrants, the English immigrants, the Italian immigrants, they assimilated and they spoke the same language and it worked really well. But if you have people coming in who don't speak the same language.
By the way, again, like the same people, the China, this is only among like when I say the people who don't speak English, right? This is only like the people who come to the United States and actually just were doing lower tier jobs, like working in restaurants, or very commonly among international students, especially who are in a community college. But for the immigrants who came here and work as engineers in a high-paying job environment, I will tell you, in that community, the very common trend is they want their kids, the first thing is to become American, right? They will try to teach them Chinese to maintain a Chinese cultural root, but the first thing is to assimilate into America, learn American culture, and truly become American. This is how any people with common sense actually think, right? And the same thing was what the host was saying here. Absolutely true. When you came here as an international student, your first thing you're required to do was to take the test of English, TOEFL, TOEFL, and then not the food kind, just TOEFL. People call it TOEFL test in China. Yeah, this kid has no idea, right? The student literally have no idea that's actually a requirement. It's not like, I think it's nice to not have it. No, it's required. If you don't do it and you come here, that means you came here illegally.
Language, who don't have the same values, then I don't want you here. I want to take care of the Americans who are suffering before people who don't share the same values and don't share the same culture or language.
It's kind of weird to tell them, hey, you need to learn another language when I...
It's actually more frustrating from an immigrant perspective because like people who actually wanted to immigrate in America came here, stayed here for the American culture. But it feel like more and more, the longer you stay here, I feel like the more American culture that you signed up for has been drifting away. That's a feeling, and that's not just, I'm not alone. A lot of immigrants feel the exact same way. Like, what is going on? We tried so hard to get the visa, to get the green card, and to become a citizen, to neutralize and to stay in this country and contribute. What just happened? Like the culture's been taken away, and then you go anywhere, you feel like it's not America anymore. It's either you're staying in India or you're staying in India. Like it's such a weird feeling. By the way, I have nothing against Indian immigrants. A lot of Indian immigrants feel the same. The early Indian immigrants came here, and then probably all wondering what's going on. Did I just went back to India? But the richer version, who knows, right?
Only know one language. I
Why?
understand. Because we don't have
Why is that wrong?
We don't have a national language. Like it's not.
We should.
What do you mean? What do you mean we don't have a national language? It's called English. Dude, this is such a stupid thing to say. We don't have a national language. Are you okay? Is it because of the sweater? I think it's a sweater. I think the sweater is affecting his mental. And this is what happens for people to go to Coachella, bro. Like the fact that you're saying you don't have a national language. Bro, we have a national language. It's called English. Do you want me to spell it for you? ENGLISH, all right? It's English. There's nothing else. Not Japanese, not Korean, not Chinese. It's called English. Everybody here speaks English. That's how they communicate.
And it should be English.
I guess that's where we disagree, but...
Yeah.
If I go to another country, I shouldn't expect them all to learn English. Should I go to Mexico and expect all the Mexicans to learn English to make me feel better?
I mean, a lot of people...
No, of course not. I mean, it's a ridiculous question. So if you come to America, you learn English. If I go to Mexico, I learn Spanish. If I go to Japan...
this goes back to what I was saying, right? 入乡随俗, which is assimilating to the culture that you want to live in.
Japan, I learned Japanese.
And again, it's
That's
just
what culture is. That's how they're cohesive.
I understand it. I think we just have a different outlook on American
Yeah,
culture.
that's
and
fine.
American
That's
culture,
fine.
yeah, like I said.
So I think that's it for this clip. The idea that I want to share here is that you can't convince the student either way because he agree. And by the way, he's being really polite, right? That's really good. And a lot of students are really, really polite. At least they have a civilized debate. A lot of debates I see are not actually civilized. But the idea is, I feel America is currently at a state, maybe not at a boiling point yet. Maybe it is. I don't know. I feel like it's that weird limbo state where 50% of the people hate the other 50%. And I really don't want that to be the case. But American core value has been drifting away. People literally forget how this country was formed. From the Declaration of Independence, all that kind of stuff, how the war was fought, how people try to fight the war because there's taxation without representation, all the kind of stuff that we were required to learn coming into this country. It feel like the people who are here, born here, just don't know about none of that, which is really sad, right? Like, because you came here loving them, you learned it from, elsewhere, like, oh shit, that's great stuff. I like that. That's why you came here, and you came here you realize 50%, maybe more, hated that shit. You're like, what just happened? How did America get to this point? I don't know. I don't know if America is at its boiling point. But to be honest, the thing about going back to multiculturalism, I think everybody loves a melting pot of culture, like where different culture has a place to shine and have a place to represent itself, especially through food, right? Or you can. I think everybody's happy when there's like a spring festival somewhere in a designated location. Everybody can get a glimpse of China. When there's Chinese Spring Festival, you go to Chinatown, you get a glimpse of China. Those are cool, right? And when you see people talk, you get an idea of, oh, this is really cool. But everyone, like from the immigrant community who came here illegally, want to become American citizens, share the same thing, which is American core value should stay intact because that's what everybody came here for. If it is not intact, if the Constitution is not intact, then America is no longer America. If America doesn't even speak of one common language, which is English, then America is no longer America. And everybody agree to that. It's common sense. It's also, and I don't think it conflicts with multiculturalism, right? Because I don't see multiculturalism have to be exclusively where different culture coexist, but they don't respect each other. I think it has to coexist, but with one common value on the bottom. Otherwise, it just cannot. It cannot work. So that's what I think, guys. What's your thoughts? Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.